This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness Podcast to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness Podcast. We're here today with Rick DeTata as my co-host. First time I have a co-host on the show. I'm really excited about the dynamic today. Our guest is Tony Cerullo, who I guess I should tell you is my cousin, and I'm so proud of him and all that he's accomplished in his life and in health and fitness. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for the nice intro, Angel. Awesome.
Of course. Hey, Rick, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Glad to be here.
I'm happy to be here, too, with you guys. This is exciting. All right. So, Tony, let's get started on you. Tell us about your background. I know that you're a pathologist. You also sent me information that you're now a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, which I've never heard of before, but I can't wait to hear about it. Let's start from the beginning. Where you were born, where you grew up, and where you went to college.
I was born in New York, so Patchogue, New York, and raised in Casper, Wyoming. So when I was 2, my folks moved out to Casper. And if you've never been to Wyoming, well, it is a shock to the system. It's super, super cold in the winter. And the summers are nice. They're nice. But you wish it was longer, for sure. I grew up there and always had a desire to do something in biology. Wasn't really quite sure. I think we all kind of start off on a different foot and just venture out in different areas. I think I was marine biology was my first major interest. I ended up going on the pre-med track and realizing that I wasn't quite sure if a doctor was quite what I wanted to do. But I thought healthcare was still pretty cool. So I moved into med lab science and went on to get my master's degree in pathology. And so I am a certified pathologist assistant. And what they do is examine all tissue that come out of the operating room. So it could be anything from a GI biopsy, from a colonoscopy to a breast that someone has had removed for cancer, a mastectomy or colon. So I would examine all of those. Later in my career, I shifted into healthcare administration. So I'm an executive now at a laboratory in Arizona, a major laboratory in Arizona. And I am over 30 hospital surgical pathology laboratories, as well as a large reference anatomic pathology laboratory that's literally a football field long, and it has cytology, flow cytometry, and a histology service. So that's what I do currently.
That's easy for you to say. Wow, it's an amazing bio you have there. But I mean, what do you do? Could you change water into wine too? What else?
I can't do that. No.
Yes, you could. I'm sure you could try it hard enough. Let me ask you a question. Explain what Angel said that the
Neuro-linguistic.
Yeah, does that mean you speak Klingon or something? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we all have some struggles in life, and I think that trying to get to a place where we are functioning from a place of accountability, right? And my wife now, Sherry Plotke, is very adventuresome. And so she found this training in neuro-linguistic programming, and it intrigued me. And so essentially what it entails is looking at your subconscious mind, right? So from 0 to 10 years old, we are essentially trained in our behavior from our experiences in our subconscious. So from 0 to 10, if you think about that, you're in a different kind of a wavelength. You're in what we call an alpha wavelength or a theta wavelength in that time period. So That's why you believe in Santa Claus and cartoons are really cool and all that stuff. You're very impressionable at that time. So anything you learn at that point of your life really affects who you grow up to be, how you be in specific instances. And what I like to call out probably has the most impression is any gestalt. So a gestalt is if you have an experience attached to an emotion. So if your mom says to you when you got a new toy, oh, you look particularly happy today, you go, oh, that's the first time I've ever recalled knowing what happiness felt like. So that moment is a gestalt. The thing we have to be on the lookout for is negative emotions. So fear, sadness, grief, any of those emotions, anxiety, and the gestalts associated with them. So however severe that negative emotion is at the time and that you recognize it at the gestalt affects who you are and how you react to situations. Say you have a relationship and your significant other tends to want to leave you when you're in an argument or something like that. If you had an abandonment in that 0 to 10 age range, your subconscious mind has created a pattern in how you will react. And chances are there are trauma associated with that mental trauma. You may react really badly in that moment. A normal person would be like, okay, if you want to leave, but somebody with a lot of trauma could totally lose it in terms of their emotions, be completely improportionately sad or whatever in that type of mind frame. So what neurolinguistic programming does is it helps people to get rid of baggage, the trauma. So there are certain tools that you can use that will release that and that you will react more normally. It takes discipline, though. Everything takes commitment and time. And that is kind of in a nutshell what neurolinguistic programming does.
Wow. So bottom line, you're saying cartoons aren't cool anymore. So that's the same. Getting rid of baggage. And how would you go about doing that besides getting divorced? I mean, if you could explain that real quick. Angel, I'm not trying to overstep you, but I'm just curious.
Go ahead. Those are great questions. Exactly what I had in my mind. So go ahead, Tony. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think that is the trick. So the first step is you have to realize that there's a problem, right? You have to be accountable for yourself. The thing that I like to do is you're not affected by the outside world. Your perception of the world comes from inside. So you have enough inner strength to go, okay, I've got something I need to deal with here. It's not my wife, my sister, my brother, my mom. It's not my job. It's not whatever. It's me. I have to do the work. It's what I have control of. There's this phrase called cause and effect. All right. So cause and effect means if you're a cause, you're taking ownership for your life. You're the one that's going to be responsible. If it's effect, you're going to be a victim. You're going to be in the blame state. You don't want to be a victim ever. You want to be at cause. You want to take ownership, be empowered in your day-to-day life. So that's really the first step. You have to acknowledge you need help. You have to want to be empowered. The next step, there are several ways to do it, but the way that we do it in neurolinguistic programming is called mental emotional release, which is, I phrase it, kind of a semi-hypnotic type treatment modality or a timeline type therapy where you actually go back into your timeline of your life and you'll revisit events, feel the emotion surrounding that. And believe it or not, as I walk folks through this, it will separate the emotion from the event. So they'll see the event for what it is. If it's an extremely sad event. So for instance, I lost a brother when I was 7 years old and he was hit by a car. And that caused extreme trauma inside of me that I was probably incapable of dealing with when I was 7 years old. So when I went through mental emotional release, I went back to that event and I was able to release the guilt. I had a lot of guilt associated with that event. And it was completely disproportional. I think the first time I went through it, I was like almost a lunatic in there because I was so sad and so distraught from the recollection of that event. But I was able, with some work, and help actually from my wife. She's the one that walked me through the mental emotional release therapy at that time. I was able to release it. Now I can deal with it proportionally. If I go see my brother's headstone in Wyoming, now I may have some tears, but I'm able to deal with it in a good manner. As to where before I would put up a big shield, I wouldn't have any emotional reaction. Like I would be like, oh, there's a headstone, or there's, that's where Gene's buried. Now I have a much more healthy interaction. I'm able to experience the feelings, release them after I've appropriately experienced the emotion I should feel.
So when I've ever lost a loved one, starting from way back when my grandmother passed away, and also my grandfather and my dad, I didn't cry. Took a long time to cry. It's like, why is that? Do you think there's something going on there?
I do, absolutely, Angel. I think that when you were from 0 to 10, you were taught that sadness should not show a display of tears, all right?
Be strong.
Yeah, be strong, right? And so through time, that has, every time you've experienced sadness, that's recapitulated itself over and over again where it's built in. It's muscle memory. It's just how you react.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one thing. So what do you do in a situation where a bad situation is more of a relief for you? For example, my mother was sick for years. She was bedridden, and we were caretakers for her. But when she did pass, it was a relief. Thank God she's out of pain. And I never cried because it was always a preparation for this was going to happen one day. So how would you account for that? Because I never did cry because it was, like I said, it was a relief for me that she's finally out of pain. It was more of a happy moment for me that she's not wearing a neck collar. She's not bedridden and she's gone and she's out of that pain, because I used to visit her every day and it was just terrible to see her like that. So how do you, is there something deep inside me that may one day come out? You know what I mean? That I'll have a release of emotion later on?
Possibly, Rick. That's a great question. I don't know that tears are always necessary to experience the emotion, right? So I would say we all do it in a different way. What I would say is, I could run you through this right now, is that when you have that moment of sadness, if you allow yourself to experience it, and then wherever it resonates in your body. So say you have anxiety. I mean, some people feel like their throat's cut off or they can't breathe as well, or maybe they feel like things like that. You want to be able to go, okay, I have this thought. In your case, it would be the loss of your mom. I have this thought, and then it generates an emotion. And so the emotion is going to be some sort of a hormonal, physiologic reaction. It's not a big secret. If you have a situation where you're in fear, it's fight or flight, right? You may have an adrenaline rush. You may have whatever. The whole trick is to, in that moment, that thought, oh, I lost my mom. Why am I not crying? Where's the emotion? Is it emotion of happiness for her? Or is it, pure sadness? You can see and feel that in your body somewhere. As long as you allow yourself to experience that appropriately and feel it for a few minutes, that detaches the thought from the emotion. And then you can eventually, in 90 seconds is what the terminology or the thought is on this. So that's how long it takes for your body to process through all the hormones that you may have accumulated during that time. Once those hormones subside, then you are kind of through the event. The thought's gone, the emotion's gone. You've processed it in a healthy manner, and you're fine. So I would say, in your state, as long as you're confident that there's nothing else there and you're allowing yourself to feel that emotion and process through it effectively, probably won't have an issue.
Yeah. I think your traumatic experiences block things out too, because I was a firefighter and I was at the fire station when she passed away. So I got the call, but she lived an hour and a half away from the fire station. Well, she was in a hospice an hour and a half away from. To this day, I do not recall that hour and a half drive up the turnpike. 1 minute I was at the fire station, and it's like the next minute I woke up, I was at her bedside. To this day, I don't remember the hour and a half drive whatsoever. I just don't. It's kind of like freaks me out that how can I drive 70 miles an hour for an hour and a half and not recall any of that? I guess just your mind blanks out on certain emotions, you know?
Yeah, that's self-hypnosis. You are in self-hypnosis. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Are you?
I've read about it. Yes.
Yeah. You put yourself in a hypnotic state.
Yeah, like I said, to this day, which is 10 years later. Angel.
Yeah. So putting yourself in a hypnotic state, is that because we're trying to protect ourselves from those emotions? Or is it even like dangerous? You're driving. I can remember driving places, my mind being somewhere else. And it's like, oh my gosh, how did I get here so fast? You know?
Is it dangerous? That's a great question. Actually, it's not. And the reason why it's not dangerous is it's not like you're asleep, right? You have driven a car so many times on the same roads repeatedly. It's like playing a musical instrument. If you guys are into that, or if you've, I don't know what you do that you love to do a lot. For me, I like to play the guitar. And if I've learned a song and I know how to play it, I don't have to think about the chords anymore. I'm playing it and it just works. Same with driving a car. After a while, it's the same thing. So yeah, exactly what you said. Your thoughts have captivated you to the point where that's all you're focused on. And that's a state of self-hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting.
And you teach the people how to claim responsibility for their actions and their emotions. Is that what you do? You teach that? Because in a world today, a world of the younger generation of entitlement and victimhood, everybody's a victim. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions. That's just the society we live in. That's got to be hard to teach people that, you know?
It's a desire for me. That part of what I do really taken off. It's more of something I'll provide to family. I made a few YouTube and TikTok videos that explain some of these things. I want to do a lot more, but yeah, it's an area I would really like to expand in.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know how or don't take the time to sit with their emotions, just to be able to sit back and relax and stare out at the ocean or your garden and sit with your emotions and see what comes up. A lot of people don't do that. They're scared to do it. It's so important to just listen to what's going on in your heart, your mind, and your body.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go back to mentors and inspirational people for you that brought you to where you are in health and fitness today.
Wow, I really haven't even thought of that, like in terms of why do I enjoy what I enjoy. It was kind of a self journey, honestly. When I was growing up, I played a lot of baseball and football and basketball. Of course, my parents helped to motivate me to play baseball and football and all of that. My dad coached me for a number of years, it was always great to have him by my side and be there for the games and practice. I think for me, in terms of endurance athletics, where I find the most peace, it was just a self-challenge. It was something that was so painful. I think when I initially did it, it was something I never really thought I wanted to do. I remember being terrified of the water as a kid. I had a near drowning when I was 4 at a lake where, a friend of the family kind of pulled me out. I remember how terrifying that was. I remember struggling just in swim lessons in deeper water and just being so afraid of water in that respect. And so I was, later in swim team in high school and really kind of just turned it around. So for me, it was about challenges, challenging myself seeing that, I had a cousin that was on a swim team. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. I had a really good friend that said, hey, Tony, let's join the cross country team. I'm like, why would we want to do that? That's running. That's ridiculous. And I said, all right, I can do that. I want to do it. And so it was kind of motivation, right?
That must be a gene that runs in the family. Yeah, because challenges, love physical challenges. It's what's always kept me going and wanting more, for sure. What about you, Rick? Has it been the challenge?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love a challenge. I mean, as I'm getting older, at this point in my life, the challenges are becoming more painful. I can tell you that, physically painful. Like I told you, I told Angel, when I go to the gym today, my routine is now I walk into the gym, whatever doesn't hurt that day is the body part I'm working. You know what I mean? There's no routine anymore. But yeah, I love a challenge because for me, if I challenge myself and I kind of give up on the challenge, I get really super mad at myself for doing that. Because when I went to flight school for the Navy, I mean, I had so many friends saying, you're crazy, you could never do that. And there was no way I was going to fail. Failure was just not an option at that point because I wasn't coming home with my tail between my legs. So that's just one aspect of a challenge. I mean, challenge can be physically, mentally, it could be a bunch of different things. As long as you challenge yourself, I think it's healthy for your mind to keep your mind going like that.
Right. I agree.
So, Tony, how many triathlons have you been into?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. So back in my late 30s, early 40s, I decided to kind of start into triathlon. I had never done it. Open water swimming seemed like a fun thing. I'd always been a good runner and an okay swimmer. I'm not going to say I'm a great swimmer. I'm an okay swimmer. I can get by. I've never really cycled at that point. So I picked up a bike and started training. I was training for half marathons and marathons at that point, just to try to be more healthy, have better fitness, just awareness that way. And so I did a few back then, and then I dropped off. Life got the best of me. I had a lot of challenges at work. I didn't have neuro-linguistic programming. I was very much a victim, trust me, very much a victim. To manage my emotions and at work and home and everything else. Ended up changing jobs a couple of times to higher level jobs, but they were still the same stress and the same craziness was always there. And I ended up, going through a really bad divorce and ended up moving to Arizona. And just this last year, I have been with Sherry for 6 years now. And just this last year, we got married over the summer. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get back into triathlon because my health is probably deteriorating. My weight was high. I needed something that I love to do to keep me fit and kind of in a groove, aligned of achieving goals. Really out of that victim mindset, more into an empowered mindset. And I started training. So I started training in June. And for about 2 months, I said, okay, it's time to sign up for my first event. And I signed up for a sprint triathlon in November, and then another one in December. And then this last one was over this past weekend, February 24th, and another sprint triathlon. And I have one more coming up April 28th, which is a Olympic distance, which is twice the length of the sprint triathlon. And it has been so gratifying. I started off on my first triathlon. It was what you call a draft legal. So it means that you can't use a triathlon bike. You have to use like a regular road bike. And I was able to place third in my age group, and I qualified for the World Championships for draft legal sprint triathlon and was recruited for the world team for age group. So
wow, that's great. Tony, real quick, if you could, for our listeners who don't know exactly what a triathlon is, could you break it down real quick, what exactly a triathlon is?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I forget about that part. So yeah, triathlon is swimming, biking, and running in that exact order. And there are a bunch of different levels of triathlon. So sprint triathlon is generally the shortest that you can do, and it is half a mile swim, 12.5 mile bike, and a 5K, so 3.1 miles. And that will generally take a really good professional seasoned athlete about an hour. And, it can take people up to 2 hours. I do mine in about an hour and 20 right now, which I feel like I could get a little bit faster, but that's generally the timing on that. The next distance is called an Olympic, which is twice as far. An Olympic triathlon is a mile swim, a 24.5 mile bike, and then a 10K, which is a 6.2 mile run. Then you get into your Ironman level, which you have a half Ironman and a full Ironman. Your Ironman is your half Ironman is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike, and half a marathon, which is 13.1 miles. And then a full Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and a marathon, which is 26.2 miles.
Wow. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. It's about 15 between, the fast guys are probably around 8 or 9 hours on a full triathlon Ironman. And then you'll have people finishing up to 17 hours on those.
Right now, triathlon for me is a 2 mile drive to the gym, a mile drive to Chipotle, and then a mile drive back home.
That's an awesome trip.
So, Tony, do you ever expect to advance into the next level? What's your plan?
I don't know yet. Right now, I have a certain amount of time. I train about 6 days a week, about an hour a day. On the weekends, I'll train 2.5 hours on Saturday and on Sunday. So Saturdays will be about an hour swimming and then about an hour and a half to 2 hours riding on my bike. And then I'll usually do a long run on Sunday. Like last Sunday, I did 14 miles, and that was about an hour and 15-minute run. And so, with that, it's probably, 8 to 10 hours a week training. You start getting beyond that for a half Ironman. I really probably need to add another 5-6 hours on a week, and now you're starting to run out of time. So we'll see. I like the sprint Olympic distance. I think that's a fair amount to do and have balance in your life. I'm not sure that any more than that would be, at this point, at least, a goal of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break.
Get ready to elevate your wellness journey. Step into a world of holistic well-being at our most anticipated event of the year, the Flagler Wellness Expo 2024, March 23rd and 24th at FPC High School. Join us and immerse yourself in a vibrant celebration of health and wellness, curated just for you by your local community's leading wellness professionals. Discover your path to a healthier, happier, more balanced you.
So the sprint triathlons, it sounds like you've done quite a few in a short period of time. Is that common with people, or have you done like more than what most people do?
I'm not sure. I think I'm lucky living in Arizona, as you guys, in Florida, same kind of thing. You get to do things all year round. And so for me, I'm probably a little bit ahead of most folks. I do one every couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you're
51, almost
51.
52 in June.
In June. Okay. So is your body saying to you right now, thank you for what you're doing? Or is it saying, oh my God, what are you doing to me?
For the most part, it feels pretty good. I think running can be a challenge. You get a lot of tightness and strain from running. I did lose about 25 pounds. So through all of this training. And so the lighter I am, the less things hurt. Imagine that, that's just how it works. So, but I think swimming, I don't experience any issues at all. Same with riding. I think running, there are some inherent challenges. I need about a day to recover, especially after a long run.
Tony, what about your caloric intake and your protein intake? What do you do to prepare for these triathlons? I mean, I'm sure the day before, your carbohydrate intake, or you're actually just on your normal daily basis. If you're training every day, if you're working out every day, what do you eat?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm a vegetarian. I do eat fish, and this just started probably a year and a half ago. So I'll have some fish every now and again. But I do have a very funny story for you guys. My wife, she loves the keto diet. And so she was, when I was initially starting this dry training, she was wanting me to do this keto diet with her. And I found that I was getting some really strange pains during training and a lot of weakness. And I couldn't understand why. And so I started doing research. I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, is this diet related? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I not doing that well, in terms of endurance athletics? And so the research that I did pointed out that how you break down, you guys probably all know this, but it's really interesting. How you break down your sort of nutrients as you're doing endurance athletics goes in this order. You break down glucose, glycogen stores first, then it goes directly to muscle, and then fat. So what was happening was I was eating with a keto diet, high fat diet, with very low carbs and, some protein. So I was basically going right to breaking down my muscle first. And so that was detrimental. When you're doing endurance athletics, you do have to have carbs on board all the time. And then I never really fully understand that right after an endurance workout, you have to have carbs within a half hour. And you got to get them in your bloodstream quickly. So it could be an apple. You can choose healthy things. You don't want to eat cookies and things like that.
The sugar, like in cookies he just mentioned, that they're simple carbs. But when you eat like pastas and rice and oatmeal, those are complex carbs that are more beneficial to the body. Better fuel, obviously.
Yep. So I had to shift my diet. And then going back to your initial question, Rick, I try to eat after I do a long run or a workout. I want to eat an ample amount of carbs to replenish glycogen stores, and I want to eat a fair amount of protein in whatever vegetarian form it is, fish and tofu, beans and rice to repair my muscle. So those are key critical components to my diet.
Do you take a protein supplement at all, like a protein powder?
I don't do any of that. Whole food.
No other supplements at all?
I do take some vitamins, but really no. On long runs and on endurance athletic things, I'll eat gels, goo gels and things like that. About every hour or 20 minutes within a workout, I need to make sure I take one of those so that I don't go right to muscle burn. You don't want to burn your muscle.
Okay. Can you tell us about any struggles that you've been through all through your health and fitness life? Any struggles that you've had to go through and figure out and to get to where, you're doing what you're doing now and doing it well?
Well, this is kind of a good story. I always wanted to play baseball as an adult and lived in Colorado in the Mountain West most of my life. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for that. So when I moved to Arizona, that was one of the first things I did was I looked for a baseball league because I love to pitch. I love to hit. I was a shortstop, second baseman when I was growing up, but I've always felt like I wanted to do more baseball. I didn't quite finish up in high school the way I saw it. And I thought, well, I want to play again as an adult. And so I was able to pitch and had a lot of really interesting, kind of strange injuries in terms of, my arm and how it affected my joints and very, very weird things you wouldn't think would happen. But it was great fun. But the thing that really made things super difficult was in one game I was playing third base and my pitcher threw probably a changeup, and the batter was anticipating it. And the batter, these guys are big guys. Some of them are ex-pro baseball players. I've hit against guys in this league that were throwing 90 plus. They were there is a very competitive league. And so he threw this change up, which was a slow pitch, and the batter just ripped it right down the third baseline, right at me. And so I was pretty disciplined third baseman, so I stayed down on the ball and made sure I stayed in front of it. The ball right at my feet took a bad hop, and there was no way. It was coming at me at like 90 plus miles an hour. There was no way that I was going to get out of the way, and it hit me right in the face.
Ooh.
And I lost 3 teeth and went through all kinds of implant surgeries and tooth replacement thing that lasted over a year. And so I ended up playing one more season of baseball, even though my wife was like, I don't want you doing that. I did one more season, but I decided that, at this point in my life, it probably wasn't worth it. And I got what I got out of it, and it was very fun, but all fun things have to come to an end.
Well, at least you got to play a little bit longer and you got to satisfy that part of you, that competitive part of you where you wanted the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Nice. Very nice. I want to talk a little bit more about preparing for a triathlon. I mean, you were saying earlier that you did start biking a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about preparation. Okay, so let's say I want to run I want to do a sprint triathlon. Did you hire a coach? Did you just take it upon yourself? What was your training regimen like?
Well, I mean, the people can hire coaches. I wouldn't say that that's a bad choice. If you're really unfamiliar with running or swimming or cycling in any way, shape, or form, I would highly recommend some sort of a coach for sure. I didn't do that. I've been, like I said, swimming for pretty much my whole life and running for a lot of years as well. It's always been kind of something I did to stay healthy. Cycling was pretty new to me, and I still feel like I have a lot of opportunity in the cycling area to learn things. I think it is funner. It's not funner. I mean, it's easy-ish to jump on a bike and just pedal it as fast as you can, but you have to learn how to work the gears and everything else. In terms of training, though, you have to be very disciplined. You cannot think that you're going to go out and do 1 day a week or 2 days a week and be able to pull off one of these events. So I think generally what you want to do is, if you're not familiar with swimming and you're not a good swimmer and you don't know how to do the strokes, you need to probably get some lessons or work out in a pool your stroke. You've got to learn how to do it and do it properly. Once you get that developed, then you're going to start on at least twice a week swimming, and you don't have to swim 4 miles the first time you jump in the pool. You can, start kind of small, between 500 and 1,000 yards. So one pool length is 25 yards generally on a normal pool. You'll want to look online or get some help from a coach if you do have one on what a workout should look like initially, and just follow a good swimming workout routine based on that. Cycling's the same way. I have a Peloton or indoor cycling. They have great workouts to help with power zone training. I think power zone training is the best way to do cycling. And you can do endurance level zone 3 kind of work, or you can move to more zone 4, zone 5 work, which it's more threshold. So that's where you're going to actually push your heart and lungs up to the next level. Running is the same way. I mean, if you haven't run a lot, you're going to want to start with walk runs, to where maybe you'll run a minute and then you'll walk for 15 or 20 seconds and then you'll run another minute until you build up to continuous running. Start with a mile, build up to, 3 to 5 miles. Right now, my workouts are a lot more advanced than that. I like to swim at least 3,500 yards every time I swim. So that's about an hour worth of swimming for me. And I'll break it down into longer distance swims, like 1,000 yards, and then shorter distance swims up to the lowest is usually about 100 yards. You can work in.
Do you
Go
do
ahead.
that in a pool or open water?
So I'm doing that in a pool mostly. It's just more efficient for me. I do need to start swimming more in open water. That was one thing I learned from the triathlon over the weekend. The water was 58 degrees and it was shocking. And there was current and there was a lot of things I didn't anticipate. That's me in the background there swimming. I don't know if you can see that, but it was very difficult. And so I do need more time in open water.
That's cold water, 58 degrees. You can get hypothermia in that. Wow. I don't do cold water. I don't even like ice in my ice water. I mean, I just 58's rough, you know?
I hear you. It was cold. It took your breath away for sure.
Did you wear a suit? Any kind of a suit?
I did. I had a wetsuit on. Yep. And you have to, when it's water's that cold, you get in and you have to kind of prep yourself a bit, put your face in, blow bubbles, let yourself acclimate for about 5 minutes, or else it's too much of a shock. You won't be able to breathe. A lot of people just drop out right at the beginning if it's too shocking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even with a wetsuit, once that water goes into your suit, you got to take a few minutes to let your body warm up that water in there. It's shocking. I know I've done that scuba diving, so I know what that's like. And also the weight. You've got a little bit more weight with the suit. So it's going to take you longer than if you were in a pool to swim those laps. Yeah.
Well, right. So that's something that folks need to really understand. I think probably the wetsuit is like a life jacket. You know, you guys have the ocean out there, but in fresh water, you sink if you don't have a life preserver on. To our salt water, you're more buoyant. Here, if you're in this fresh water, you will sink. And what a wetsuit does is that keeps you floating. You don't even have to tread water in a wetsuit. So it creates a little bit more of an aerodynamic just position in the water. And you can go faster, believe it or not, in a wetsuit than you can without one.
That's interesting. Okay. I never thought of it that way. Yeah. It's all fresh water out there.
Yeah. The less body fat you have and more muscle you have, you're going to sink a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Because body fat makes you a little more buoyant, and the salt in our salt water here makes you more buoyant too. So I'm never going to swim in a lake at 58 degrees. I can promise you that. I'll probably go right to the bottom, you know?
Not even with a wetsuit?
No.
Yeah.
58. My pool by my house goes down to, like, in the wintertime, and I'll go down to, like, I don't know, maybe 70. And no. Like, no, I can't do that. I don't like cold anything, you know, so I'm just not doing it, you know?
I don't blame you.
Real Florida boy.
Yeah.
Even though he was born in New Jersey, right, Rick?
Yeah, but that was 300 years ago. I mean,
300 years ago.
okay, that was
good.
That was 50. I moved down here when I was 15, so that was, so it was 52 years ago. You know what I mean? So people they can hear my New Jersey accent still. I don't know how, but I was born in the winter. My mother had to walk through 2 feet of snow to get to the hospital, and I grew out of that real fast. No, I don't do it. Anything under 70, I go in a coma. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely not moving to Wyoming.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Wyoming?
No, it's too cold.
All year long. Most of the year, but not all year long. It's definitely an experience.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So Tony, with all the stuff that you've been into all your life with health and fitness, I know you've been an inspiration to your family. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about your son, Aiden, and his accomplishments.
Super proud of Aiden, very fit young man. He has played sports his whole entire life. He's been a traditional basketball, football, baseball kind of guy. Played basketball and baseball up until he was probably a sophomore, and then sort of just started shifting. Actually, he played baseball through his junior year, shifting to football only. He was always a much better football player than any other sport, but definitely one of those kids that walks out on the field and you want him on your team. He was one of the best players on every team he was ever on. And I'm not saying this because I'm his dad. He's actually was really gifted athlete. I wish I had his size and ability to do the things he did. He was just very, very lucky. He never had to work at it, just really good. And then from a academic standpoint, the kid he's smart, crazy smart. He never had a B his whole entire life. I think he actually had one B. It was in band. the teacher, I don't think the teacher liked him very much. But anyway, he had great grades. He's in engineering right now at ASU. But what I'm very proud of him for being in athletics was he was the starting varsity quarterback beginning his junior year of high school and brought his team for the first time in about 8 years to the playoffs his senior year. They did lose their first playoff game, but he, helped get them there. And he ended up being Offensive Player of the Year for his football team and for the region that we're in, the conference that we were in, as well as he made all conference for football. And he had a bunch of records that he created and whatnot. So very proud. He did get a full ride scholarship to a Division II school. We really didn't work on football scholarships that hard for him, but he did get that full ride scholarship at a Division II school in New Mexico, and he elected not to go there because they didn't have an engineering program. So he doesn't really play any sports today, but he works out 6 days a week, and he's 6'2", 190 pounds, and just very strong young man, very in shape. So yeah, very disciplined in the gym every day.
Very proud of him. Absolutely. Good looking guy. He's going to go far. You should be proud, Papa.
He's a good guy.
Where do you get that 6'2" from, though, in our family?
It probably wasn't from the Italian side. I'll just say that.
Okay. Any questions for him, Rick, that you would like to ask?
I'm still thinking about that Neuro
Linguistic program. Yeah.
That too. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna do a little research on that because I find that interesting when you're talking about feelings and emotions, and like I said, especially in today's world of entitlement and nobody wants to take blame for anything in their lives. It's always blaming the other guy. Self-responsibility is a very rare thing now. So yeah. I'm interested in that. I'm going to do some research on that.
So just an offshoot, so you guys know, Tony Robbins is a proponent of neuro-linguistic programming. So a lot of his teachings are based upon NLP. And Dr. Matt James is where I got my training from. So if you look up Dr. Matt James, I think it's empowerment.com is his website. You'll be able to get a lot more information about that. He incorporates energy work as well. This thing called Huna. He's from Hawaii originally. He's got a PhD in integrative psychology. Very, very smart man. All of these things are based on our past behaviors and what we were exposed to. So,
have you ever heard anything about it's drawing lines and connecting lines on paper, and it's supposed to focus your energies? I can't think of the name. It's invented by some Russian psychologist, I believe. It's recognized pretty well. Here's what it looks like, if you could say it.
Oh, wow.
It's drawing lines at that, and it's my wife has got into it now. It's very interesting. It's almost what you're talking about. You know what I mean? But it's a little different. I tried it. I don't have the patience for it. You know what I mean? It's drawing lines, and yeah, it's all part of the psyche. The mind is everybody's mind is a different planet because everybody's got their own world inside their head, and you never know what's going on inside somebody's head. Never, no matter how good you know them. I find that very interesting what you do.
Yeah, mastery comes from it's not your own perception, but it's the perspective of others. When we can start living with a bigger world picture and get out of our own minds, it'll transform your life and how you see everything.
Well, that's where you say that, because a lot of people I know tell me I'm out of my mind. So just thought I'd throw that in there, Angel.
We like you just the way you are. Don't change a thing. No, but we've all been through some kind of trauma, and we may have forgotten about the trauma, or we may have tucked it away somewhere because we don't want to deal with it. And finding a way to bring it up, bring it out, and release it is probably the best thing that we can do with ourselves. And it affects our lives in a way that we never thought it would.
For sure. Agree.
All right, Tony. So at the end of all my shows, I ask our guests to provide the audience with a goal in life and how to get there. Would you like to help our listeners with something like that to inspire them to live their best life?
Yes, I would say I don't want to make the goal too lofty right now, because that's a lot of what people kind of how they make mistakes and how they get off to the wrong start. So make your goal attainable. So what I would say is, if you do have a desire for fitness, make your goal something completely attainable. Do something that you know you're going to have success at. So let's just start out with today. I want you to go out and I want you to have some sort of workout, whatever it is you want to do. That's easy. You can do it. Is it a walk? Is it a run? Is it lifting weights? Riding a bike? Let's make that your goal for today.
One step at a time. Very good. Do it, right?
Yep.
Well, thanks so much, Tony, for being on the show. I appreciate you doing this, signing up and right away and coming out and talking to us. Me and Rick really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge. You have a lot of it. And hopefully you've inspired others out there to go ahead and take that first step towards something exciting, making a change in their life so that they can feel better about themselves.
Thank you for having me. This is an amazing experience. You guys are great hosts, ask great questions, and I loved answering those questions.
Awesome. And thanks, Rick. Thank you so much for co-hosting. You did a great job. We'll do this again.
Absolutely. It was a very interesting person. Tony's a great guy, and it's great meeting interesting people. It really is, especially in an area you have no idea about. You're always learning something when you talk to different people. So it was nice meeting you, Tony.
Nice talking to you guys. Nice meeting you as well, Rick.
Awesome. You guys have a great day.
This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness Podcast, to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.